The NB Network with Dee Sparta.
Hey everybody, it's me, Dee, and welcome to the NB Network. How are you doing today, my friends? I hope you're well. I'm surviving. The air quality here is awful from a lot of smoke, all the fires. It's just awful. So if I choke up and keep needing to just reach for my coffee and water, please understand why. So get your drink. Let's sit back. We're going to get into another true crime tarot reading. But before that, let's learn about the unsolved mysterious disappearance and death of Edgar Allan Poe. Yes, Poe was born in 1806 and he died in October of 1849 while he was in a hospital, which he'd been there for a few days after he had been found by a John Walker, who had found Poe, who had disappeared for about a week, but found him in front of a tavern, just completely out of his mind. He was looking ragged, like he was wearing clothes that would not have been what a man of with Edgar Allan Poe's stature at the time. He was a very famous author, and that's why Walker recognized him. He was like, wait a minute, something's wrong with this person. I know who he is. Let me try and help. So he's the one who got help, found out who to contact for help, because Poe was able to mention a friend, Mr. Snodgrass, an editor, and that was able to get him into a hospital to try and help him. They didn't know what happened. Nobody knows. So if you'd like to learn a little bit about Edgar Allan Poe and what led up to this mysterious disappearance that he ended up dying after from, well, please stick around. Now, if you just want to jump on ahead and get to that tarot card reading, I hook you up. I put the chapter links down below in the description, and you can just skip on ahead and say okay with me. Well, folks, let's get going. Words have no power to impress the mind without the exquisite horror of their reality. That quote is from the narrative of author Gordon Pym, written by Edgar Allan Poe. And that was pretty much the only novel that Poe ever wrote. Most of his writings were short stories, essays, and poems. Poe was born in 1806 in Boston, raised by his mom until she passed away when he was almost 3. His dad had left them right after he was born. So at a very young age, Edgar Allan Poe was all alone. Now, he got sent away to Richmond, Virginia, where he was put into a foster care home with John Allan and his wife. And, well, that's where the Allan comes from in Edgar's name. John formalized his name as Edgar Allan Poe, even though there was never an adoption, and there was just fosters. Now, as a foster child, Poe wasn't treated really well by the Allans, and while Edgar did try to go to college, John wouldn't help him financially. So Poe wasn't unable to have enough money to pay for his education. You're like, well, why wouldn't John do something like that? Well, there could be numerous reasons. One reason, John accused Edgar of having gambling debts, and he must be using this money to pay these gambling debts. But we don't really know of any gambling debts Poe actually truly did have. This has never been verified. And as you're going to find out, we go into more and more in this story that there's a lot of things that are fake news about Edgar Allan Poe, and it's because people who didn't like him really tried to ruin his character. Now, Edgar did find himself trying to get into in the military, because he was hoping he could finish his education and over at West Point. However, the dude did not fare well in the military. No. He's a writer, not a fighter. Let's put it that way. So he now finds himself out of the military, not able to go to college, not able to finish his education. So he settles just north of Baltimore. And this location, it is scummy. There's a lot of extreme poverty. It's filthy. Grave diggers. Yes, you heard me. Grave diggers. Lots of them were in this area. And when I say digger, I should say robbers. That's the proper grave robbers. I'm sorry. But still, did they dig up and rob from graves? Okay, we get it, right? Okay. Now, this whole macabre scene is what actually inspired Poe in his writings, where he started writing his poetry and writing all about the macabre and the horrors of the world. Yes. And he started becoming a good author and traveling up and down the East Coast. And on top of that, he became a critic of literature. So he was very busy and was able to get work writing and critiquing, writing, for newspapers and such about other poets and writers. Of course, he did have a few enemies because of this, and we'll get into that a little later. Now, Poe got married to his cousin, Virginia Clemm, who was only 13. And some people were like, what? And it does seem quite young, and in our times, it would be extremely inappropriate. Illegal. However, there seems to be a reason why Edgar rushed Virginia into marriage. In 1835, Edgar received word that Virginia Clemm, his future wife, was to be taken by her cousin Nelson and his wife, and her half-sister Josephine, and this did not sit well with Edgar at all. He did not trust his cousin Nelson, who wanted to bring Virginia to be with him. And yeah, so he pleads to his Aunt Maria Clemm, who is Virginia's mother, in this heartfelt letter. And he's like, if this happens, this is a betrayal that will wound to the soul. I mean, Edgar's just like, I need this. You can't, this is going to ruin my life and her Virginia's life. He really felt that if Virginia ended up at Nelson's, he would never see her again. Well, Edgar won that dispute. Aunt Maria was like, yes, okay. Virginia will marry Edgar, and Nelson at the time didn't know why their Aunt Maria did not accept his offer. But it also is said Nelson was concerned about Poe marrying Virginia at such a young age. He's like, hey, let me just have Virginia for a couple of more years, and then, if they still want to both be together, then fine, then they could get married. But Edgar did not trust or believe Nelson, because he felt Nelson was wanting more from Virginia than just having her live with them. You know what I'm saying? He saw this guy as his rivalry when it comes to Virginia's heart. Now, according to Poe, he never consummated his marriage with Virginia. Never did. And sadly, she only had a short life, and she passed away 12 years after they were married from tuberculosis. And so he did go into a very deep depression after this. And so he had to pick himself back up, which was not easy for him. He did, they do say he struggled a little with alcohol during his depression, but then he snapped out of it. And things were looking good for Poe finally. After such a hard life, in October of 1849, he was a well-known author, and he was actually going to marry the love of his life. You're like, what? See, when Poe was much younger, like around 1819, he had his little high school sweetheart. She was 15. Her name was Sarah Elmira Royster. Now she and Poe, they wanted to marry. They loved each other, but Sarah's father's like, oh, hell no. Not that degenerate. Nope. And so he married his daughter off to someone else, Mr. Shelton. And yeah, it broke Edgar's heart and Sarah's, and to the point where when later in life they reunited when they both were widows, and but they did rekindle that love. So it's like, oh, he's finally with his sweetheart that he wanted to marry originally, and he's so happy, and he's doing well. But nope, folks. You see, he was going to make a trip from Richmond to Philadelphia and then head up to New York. And Sarah did not want him to go on this trip. She didn't feel right about it and was extremely concerned about Edgar's health. But Edgar insisted that it was just a quick journey and all would be well and he'd be there at the wedding. But you see, his last night in town, he was so sick. Sarah noticed he had a very weak pulse and just very lethargic, and she was deeply concerned. She begged him, and he even visited a doctor, and the doctor told him don't travel, that he was too sick. But Poe didn't listen, and there was never a wedding. When he got to Baltimore, he vanished. He was gone for about a week. And I said originally it was a John Walker who found him. I was wrong. I'm sorry. It's Joseph. My mind just went to the wrong direction. I apologize. But Mr. Walker found Poe just extremely disheveled. He was confused. And it was in front of this local tavern, Gunner's Hall. Now, as I mentioned before, Walker did recognize Poe and see that something was wrong. He was looking horrible. So he went to Poe and tried to help him and was trying to be like, and noticed that Poe was kind of incoherent and coherent, kind of fluctuating. But he was able to be like, hey, who can I get contact for you to get assistance? The name that came out was Joseph Snodgrass. And so Walker writes in this letter going, hey, I need, Edgar needs help. Can you please help? He's delirious. He's unwell. And, well, Snodgrass got the letter, and Poe was immediately admitted into Washington College Hospital, where Dr. John Moran, this is where I got the John name from. There's two Josephs and a John. I get the JJs, okay? Now, things from this point on become very uncertain about what happened and extremely vague. Poe was kept alone in a windowless room and was treated only by Dr. John Moran. Now, Moran will claim that Poe was not drunk when he arrived at the tavern, and when he was found that he was not drunk, the guy he just was delirious. Now, some say when he passed away that his final words were either, Lord, help my poor soul, or as some say, he said, Croatoan, which, weird, but okay. Now, as I mentioned, there's just like zero hospital records to be found about Poe's stay. You can find that he was checked in. So this raises a lot of suspicion about his death and why, and what really happened. While it was noted that Poe was listed as succumbing to phrenitis or congestion of the brain, which is another way of saying drug or alcohol overdose, there's nothing to confirm such. Even Dr. Moran, when he writes a biography years later, beforehand, he was trying to make it clear Poe was not drunk. You see, Poe wasn't known as a heavy drinker during this time, and because he was considered a lightweight, he couldn't handle alcohol. So that's why he avoided it. Now, he did, like I mentioned, after his first wife, Virginia, passed away, he did kind of spiral down and try to wash away his grief with alcohol, but a doctor warned him, hey, this is going to kill you, so he stopped drinking. He even pledged his sobriety and joined the Sons of Temperance long a while before his death. And Snodgrass, the editor who helped him, was a major advocate of the temperance movement and toured the country using Poe as an example of the dangers of booze and how he stopped. And yeah, crazy, right? He had written about how but you see, Snodgrass also claimed that Poe had gotten drunk, and that's how he found him in front of a tavern, incoherent and drunk, and unable to speak. And so, yeah, it got suggested maybe he was an opium addict or a drunkard, but there was someone else who had pushed those rumors, and yeah, it's sad because you see, he had an enemy who took Snodgrass talking about, well, he looked like he was drunk and couldn't talk, and Griswold was like, okay, and you're going to hear about Rufus Griswold. He really hated Poe. That was his arch nemesis. There was a rivalry, and Griswold wanted to spread rumors, and he's the one who spread the rumors of a opium addict and drunkard, and there's more. We'll get to Rufus in a bit. And Moran, now, he tried to clarify the circumstances surrounding Poe's death. Like I said, he was continuously saying, no, he wasn't drunk. No, that wasn't what happened. And he wrote a book entitled Edgar Allan Poe, A Defense, which described a sober, steady Poe reciting poetry on his deathbed. You heard me. So they're saying, yeah, they're like, and some people are like, well, so if he wasn't drinking, what killed him? What happened? There was never an autopsy performed. Like, all right, Dr. Moran, why did you what happened? Why didn't they go further to find out what caused the death? They said he had been lucid and then not. It was just like, he had moments of clarity and then he didn't. And some people kind of suspect maybe Poe had rabies. But who really, that was like, well, maybe not. But some would say that maybe it was rabies, and accused Dr. Moran of not being a reliable witness because of inconsistencies from the things he was saying at the very beginning to years later when he wrote his book. And some just say, well, it's probably because of memory, the inconsistency. And so he wasn't trying to lie. But some say, well, maybe it was the flu and he got pneumonia, and that's what, got him so sick and he died. Some say maybe it was poisoning, carbon monoxide. We really don't know. Maybe. Some would say he was beaten up when he was found, that someone had totally beat him up and he maybe had a concussion. There's just so much. But you see, well, Poe did have his enemies. So when I mentioned Nelson Poe, his cousin, because, well, Edgar did not want Nelson to take Virginia away from him. And some would say, well, maybe, Nelson resented him. But you find out, if you look more into Nelson, he actually he revered his cousin Edgar Allan Poe, and even mentions, he was there for the funeral, and he eulogized him, and he was like, and he even paid for this giant, beautiful Italian marble headstone. Unfortunately, it was destroyed while transporting to the cemetery, but yeah, he cared. He even said, because of Edgar, our family name will be known. He has made us greater. And so you kind of go, well, maybe the bitterness was more only on Edgar's part towards Nelson, because he didn't trust Nelson. Well, we now are going to go back to Rufus Griswold, who I mentioned before had talked about trying to accuse Poe of being an opium addict and an alcoholic. Now, immediately after his death, an obituary was printed in the newspaper. And it begins matter-of-factly. It just says, Edgar Allan Poe is dead. And you get in further, and it says, this announcement will startle many, but few will be grieved by it. He had few or no friends. And this obituary just trashes Poe. He's accused of him being a madman and melancholy, cursing, walking up and down the streets, and just, oh my God, it was bad. And this obituary went, back then, what we consider as being viral. It got printed elsewhere, and people were seeing all this. And you come to find out that it was written under a pseudonym, and the true author was Rufus Griswold, Poe's arch nemesis. You heard it. He hated Poe. And it's not quite sure exactly. They just rubbed each other somehow the wrong way. And Poe would write scathing book reviews that would attack Griswold's friends. And Griswold was like, stop all this. And he'd also, do lectures ridiculing Griswold's magnum opus, The Poets and Poetry of America. So Poe was trashing him. But at the same time, Griswold was throwing things, and Poe was kind of just thought he was ribbing Griswold. It was more like, yeah, this is fun. Griswold didn't appreciate, like, when Poe wrote a character into a story, about how this person gets dumber after reading Griswold's work. Griswold didn't take too kindly to that. No. But while Poe just figured this was all done in jest, this is like, we're just playing back and forth. But Griswold wanted to destroy Edgar Allan Poe. He hated him. After Poe's death, Griswold managed to get the only portrait ever painted of Poe that Poe's mother-in-law had. And he also convinced Poe's mother-in-law to sign away the rights to all Poe's work to him. Oh yeah, Griswold wanted to silence everything and just... But that portrait, the dude had it hanging in the hall. Big hall of his home, and that's a little creepy. Now, Griswold also wrote his own biography of Edgar Allan Poe with lots of stories of drunkenness, immorality, instability, accused him of taking money away from a woman, and just over the top hilarious evilness. The dude was like the founder of fake news. And he only lived 8 years after Poe had passed away. But during those 8 years, he did everything he could to try to slaughter and dismantle any credibility for Edgar Allan Poe, and tried just was like, because Poe can't defend himself now. Nope, nope, nope. But unfortunately, it all backfired on him. Edgar Allan Poe became legendary because of Griswold's writings, and people just loved it. They loved him and his works. They were like, how could this person just belittle and ridicule Poe so much? And so while Griswold at one time was a famous author with the same height of Edgar Allan Poe, it's Poe we know of and not Griswold. Very interesting, huh? So we're going to get into the tarot reading in just a bit and kind of get a feel of what happened to Edgar Allan Poe when he disappeared. Hey, welcome back. We're going to get into the tarot card reading now. Please remember that this is all alleged and done for entertainment purposes only. So please keep that in mind as we go into this reading. Okay, let's see here. I am using an Edgar Allan Poe deck right now. And I'm going to do a part of it with this deck, and then I have some other decks I'm probably going to end up using. Okay, so the Wheel of Fortune, the Four of Cups, oop, here comes the Hermit. Well, Poe things were going well for him right then, before he lost everything, before he disappeared. So it's like he was about to start a new beginning. And then you got the Four of Cups reversed. And so there's, there's I think, and going to be a hermit. So this is a little different than what I was expecting, I gotta tell you. It's like he was doing a lot of soul searching, how I got to where I am. Finally coming full circle. But ignoring something, just kind of avoiding something. So, the Five of Wands, we're dealing with conflict happening. And the Hierophant. Okay. Huh. The religion. Okay, he's not listening, paying attention. There is someone who wants to bring you down, not taking it seriously. It's just kind of like, whatever. This person's not a threat. And ignoring, he must have had an inkling, like an instinct of, intuition that something was off, but didn't want to face it, wanted just to pretend everything is well. My life is good. I've had a good time. Yep. But you know, the little magician reversed. That character. We're dealing with this being manipulated and not planning well. It was ignoring his danger because things were looking so bright. It couldn't get bad, kind of thing. Ignoring warnings. Yeah, the Seven of Swords. And, Temperance. It was not. He needed to take a look at things. And then the world. The Seven of Swords bugs me. It really does. There's someone being sneaky behind the scenes, and they're very fucking patient and are just been waiting for that moment where everything is going to be focused in his way, and then he can just go on. This is the completion and the beginning of something. So there's just somebody who, the Ten of Wands reversed. You're not going to be able to get away from me. Ten of Pentacles. Well, look at all these ends. End. Completion and things being bad. And then the reverse of the Five of Pentacles. And there's money involved. So the Ten of Wands is very, it's a very fiery, but it's the person who took advantage of a weakness of Poe. Poe was weak, and it was taken advantage of. Restricted. Helpless. You waited until Poe was going to be helpless, alone, isolated, on his own, and weakened. So they were waiting for that perfect opportunity. That's like icky, if you ask me. So there was someone behind Poe's disappearance. Okay, let's see here. I'm using the Haunted House card deck now, and let's see what it can tell me about this. It disappeared. Okay. Seven of Pentacles upside down. Undoing of work. Three of Pentacles upside down. There's a lot of money involved here. Mediocre. You're not good enough. Oh. And usually this is like, you're going up. You're like going on a journey. You're gonna make a trip. But here it's more of just this arrogance of, it doesn't, I'm going to go anyway. It doesn't matter. Yeah, this whole ignorance. And here's the devil. The devil under the seven. Ooh. He was bound. Bondaged up. Oh, and then I put the bond. Yeah, look at her. She's bound up. The Eight of Swords. Yeah. There's drugs involved. Oh, man. Someone's wanting to try and bring something to light. Poe thinking I can handle whatever's coming at me. It doesn't matter if I'm still going to go on this trip, but he's being ignorant of his enemy and underestimating things. Can't get away. There's the Seven of Swords, and it's upside down. It's trying, want to get away, but can't. He's feeling disassociated. Things are falling apart, coming down. Here's the tower. Oh, gosh. And I'm seeing him in the dark, bound up. Oh, okay. Poe thought he really needed to go on that trip for money for his marriage. Oh my gosh. Ten of Pentacles. Somebody connected to somebody who wanted revenge was hired and brought in. And it was someone somehow connected. Ooh, yeah. The Four of Wands. That's I don't like the Four of Wands card, especially in this deck. Because it's not normal, it's like they're planning together, and there was a celebrating what of the tower over the tower card, the destruction. So that's not a positive thing. Just because I not surprised this card came up, the Judgment card. It's just poor judgment. Being misled. Oh shoot, okay. Judgment. This is what you deserve. I am bringing judgment. I am your judge. You've hurt me. I hate you. I hate you. It's like a massive pain in my brain. Head trauma. Bound up. Kept in dark. Blindfolded, too. Losing his mind. Not knowing where he is, what's going on. Let's go into the Lenormand deck here. I keep seeing like a big wooden board stick. Just bashing. Top of the head. Leaving bruised. Hemorrhaging in the brain. Okay, the key. Let's see. see here. Two-faced. Oh boy. Okay, so sometimes the key means it's going to connect to something. Somebody is the key. It's opening and there's a solution. Here's the answer. The answer lies with, we got 13, and that's a little child there, you know? And the little child, okay. Oh my gosh. There, it's, be careful. This person isn't so sweet. Follow their pain and you'll see, you know, you'll get your answer. There's a boat. The boat, ship, you know, often means, and once again, we're dealing with a trip. Traveling. And so here is, yep, we're talking about when he went on his trip. Things were not all as what they seemed. There's somebody else was involved. There's the writer. Okay, that card, the person involved is a writer, and ooh. People are like, oh, the lovebirds. There's love is not the sun. Here comes the sun. Oh, the writer. Just shine the light. Where did he go? Who was nearby? Who knew of his plans? This is a tower card. So the writer is someone who was very well known, very popular, and there's a love connection somewhere with. Oh, and there's the bear, my polar bear. This is a powerful business person. Dude, did this guy like have the hots for Edgar? And Edgar like turn him down? This well-known writer, this guy is acting out like he's a rejected ex-lover. That's what I'm seeing here. Holy moly. And there's the... Okay, yep. The bridge over the... There's a well. He was underground. And deep. The lady. Oh. 39 the dice. Taking a gamble. I need a significator for this. Here we got the swans over digging deeper, but I need something for the woman. There's a woman who did something. Pregnancy? What the? Oh my gosh, she had a miscarriage. What does that have to do with anything? There's some kind of jealousy and pain, a miscarriage. 22. Oh. Edgar got detoured on his trip. Uh, this is suffering because he did well. I just see a lot of pain. I'm not sure. Some kind of head trauma and a poison. I just keep seeing a needle. And this was weird. He he was bound, kept underground in dark seclusion, beaten, left abandoned there, escaped, but head trauma and whatever was in him caused confusion and he was lost. He was fed lies. Okay. Maybe there wasn't a miscarriage. I think that was a lie to get the attention, to distract Poe, to why he trusted somebody and ended up in this situation. This is really some fucked up shit. Your wife to be is in danger. She is. I'm just here. She's bleeding on internal bleeding, and they can't stop it. And Poe didn't want to lose another love. They like mind fucked him while he was bound up, blindfolded, being starved, dehydration. My mouth right now is getting so dry and my head hurting. Someone just wanted to break Poe. He was a writer, very well known. He was a businessman and powerful, who didn't see his own success. He was so into jealousy and so envious. He wasn't looking at what he should, but instead focused on someone else and figured if he could tear that one person down, I will be the one standing. That didn't happen, unfortunately. I mean, glad we are well aware of Edgar Allan Poe's great work. But for him to have died and having been lied to, it's like this other person was taking so much joy, so much, just like, ooh, salivating over the torture that and the pain and Edgar's suffering in the darkness and his grieving brought just this, he just felt this joy, a wicked joy. Ugh. Huh. Well, that is my reading and what I've seen in my eye. I am really curious about what your opinions are, what you think. If you kind of can fill in some of the pieces of things, it's like, I, like, if there are things that, maybe I'm not picking up on or putting together that we've seen, please chit chat about it down below. I really love getting your insights and reading the comments and interacting with you. I do try my best to log in and heart your comments and, respond, and I really appreciate y'all. I hope that, like I said if I get to 2,000 subscribers, I will go live and do 5 free one question tarot readings for my subscribers. They will be picked. I will figure out how to pick them when we get to that point. And if we get to 5,000, I'll do it again, but I'll do it with 10 people. Yeah. So, help me, please. Let's manifest this so this channel can grow. Share my links and cases. Please like the video and your comments. The engagement I get also helps these videos be seen more. And I appreciate everything, all the kind and the supportive words and the critiques. I appreciate. Thank you. I love you guys. Remember, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Bye.